They landed like gods. Their ships were sleek, silver blades, carving the sky open as they descended through Earth's dead atmosphere. The broadcast said they came to liberate the remnants. What a joke! They came with arrogance, with perfectly polished armor and genetically enhanced soldiers, 10 FT, tall, breathing through filters like they couldn't stand the stink of what was left of humanity. The Empire called them peacebringers. We called them walking coffins. They'd already taken the colonies. Mars folded without a shot. Luna tried to fight and got turned into a floating graveyard, so by the time they came to Earth, they were drunk on victory high. Off our extinction, they thought we were finished. They were wrong, I remember. The way they stepped onto our soil like it was already theirs. Towering figures, with eyes like ice, weapons we didn't recognize, and that smug confidence only conquerors wear. They looked around the ruins of Chicago, what used to be Chicago, and said, "Your resistance is over." I laughed right there behind a burnt-out truck holding a homemade rail launcher, stitched together with scrap metal, battery packs, and hate. I didn't mean to laugh, it just came out, quiet at first, then loud, the kind that catches in your chest when the madness is too much. One of the elites turned to me, 7 fingers wrapped around a plasma blade, armor that pulsed with energy, like it was alive. He tilted his head. "Amusement," it said, voice filtered through a translator. "You find your defeat humorous." "No," I said, "I find your funeral funny." Then I pulled the trigger. The shot cracked through the street and tore his head off clean fast. The body didn't even fall right, just slumped like someone cut its strings. Silence. That was the first kill. The moment the illusion cracked, the peacebringers paused, confused. It wasn't supposed to go like that. Earth was broken, ruined, scattered into surviving tribes and scorched bunkers. We were supposed to beg. Instead, hell opened up from under rubble, behind buildings, and beneath storm drains. We came out, humans in patched armor, faces covered in soot, eyes full of fury, veterans, scavengers, old school killers, and young ones who'd grown up with nothing but war in their blood. What we lacked in tech, we made up for in pain, and the thing they never understood, we didn't fear dying anymore. The next 15 seconds were chaos. Rail guns spat lightning, pulse rifles stolen from earlier battles tore into the peacebringer lines. They tried to form ranks, good discipline, trained precision, but it didn't matter. We didn't fight like soldiers, we fought like monsters. I saw Marcus dragging a flamer rig made from a busted fusion core torch a squad of 5. Their armor melted like wax. The screaming didn't sound so elite. Then Eva, sniper from the Alaska cliffs, dropped 6 from a rooftop before they even realized they were being hunted. And me, I kept firing, one shot, one funeral. By the time their command transport tried to retreat, the sky lit up again, not from their ships but from ours. Crude, ugly launchers buried in old subway tunnels launched EMP warheads. We'd been saving for this moment. The flagship hovered, hesitated, and then came crashing down into Lake Michigan like a dying beast. Boom, splash, silent. The battlefield was ours, at least for now. Afterward, we gathered around the corpses of their best, tall, sleek, enhanced, and very, very dead. Marcus cracked a beer. Don't ask where he found one. Probably traded someone an eyeball for it. He raised it and said, "So that was the Empire's elite. We all looked down at the mess around us, smoking metal, alien blood, the smell of victory, or maybe just burnt protein. I grinned. Yeah, they brought their best. And we're still here, the others laughed, dark, bitter laughter. The kind that comes from crawling through too many graves and finding out the enemy still bleeds. Because here's the thing, the Empire never got you don't conquer Earth, you wake it up. We didn't sleep that night. No one did, not because we were afraid, but because we knew better. Victory on Earth was never final. If you got a win, it meant the Empire was winding up for something worse, and if you got too loud about it, if you made them bleed and dared to celebrate it, then the hammer dropped fast and hard. So we waited, slept with one eye open, finger on the trigger, nerves wired tighter than a synth core cable. I sat by the rubble of an old McDonald's. The yellow M was still standing, half charred but stubborn as hell, like everything else around here. My rail gun rested against the broken booth beside me. I hadn't eaten real food in 3 days, and the protein packs we had left tasted like someone chewed cardboard and cried into it, but it didn't matter. Hunger was background noise now. Across the street, Eva was cleaning her rifle in silence. She'd lost 3 fingers on her left hand year ago and never flinched. Marcus sat nearby telling the same story he always told, the one where he headbutted an alien officer to death in close quarters. None of us believed it, but we let him talk. It made things feel normal almost. I stared up at the sky. Red streaks from the wreckage of their flagship still burned faintly in orbit. Pieces would fall for weeks, maybe months. Some folks down in the bunker cities thought it was over, that the Empire would back off after losing their top-tier squads. Idiots, the Empire didn't stop, not when it came to humans. They didn't understand why we resisted, why we fought back instead of folding like the other systems, why we laughed when they sent their elites, but they would learn. We picked up the signal an hour after midnight, a burst of static on every frequency followed by a chilling automated voice in Old Galactic. By order of Imperial Code Red 7, Sector 19 is now declared hostile. Non-compliant, Class Omega retaliation authorized. That meant orbital cleansing. That meant they were done playing fair. I spat on the ground. Well, guess we pissed in the wrong bloodline. Marcus stood up slowly. So what now? We dig in, I said. And we make him earn every goddamn crater. By morning, we were scattered across the perimeter. Traps were armed, power packs were juiced, even the kids barely out of their teens were loading ammo belts with hands that barely stopped shaking. But they still loaded. That's what mattered. We weren't soldiers, not anymore. The actual armies were long dead, chewed up. In the first wave, what was left was us. Scavengers, ex-special forces, convicts, mechanics, survivalists, and flat-out lunatics, the ones who couldn't die because death was too scared to touch them. I looked over at Eva. You still got that EMP launcher? She nodded, brought it back from the Alaska run. Charges are unstable, but they'll punch a hole in any dropship. Good, we'll need it. We heard the engines before we saw the sky change, a low hum like 1,000 wasps buzzing in unison. Then the clouds split and they descended, not elite squads this time, full-blown cleansing units. These bastards weren't here to negotiate. They came in black ships, shaped like hooks, each one bristling with pulse cannons and drone bays below. Them armored drop pods slammed into the earth like meteor strikes, sending up towers of dirt and debris, and when those pods opened, they poured out something different, not soldiers. Machines. Tall skeletal constructs made of black alloy, no faces, no voices, just weapons, arms that folded into launchers, legs that adapted to terrain, and a central processor that calculated kill patterns in real time. Goddamn, Marcus muttered. The Empire sent the cleaners, we called them whispers, because you didn't hear them until it was too late. One came down hard. Our southern watchpoint killed a runner named Ty without even pausing. Just sprayed a line of molten metal across the ridge and walked through his burning corpse like it wasn't even there. I barked into the comms, all squads fall back to grid echo 2, draw them into the kill zone. We couldn't fight them head on, not like the elites. These things didn't bleed, didn't hesitate, they advanced with mechanical patience and absolute efficiency, but we had something they didn't, anger. We lured them into the alleyways of what used to be downtown, tight spaces, crushed cars, rigged buildings with remote charges, and napalm traps built from old refinery tanks. The first whisper entered a street we called Hell's Throat. It didn't come out, boom, whole section came down on it. Brick, steel, flame. We saw it thrashing in the fire, trying to recalculate its path. Then it collapsed. But they kept coming. Second wave moved smarter, scanned the terrain, sent recon drones ahead. We lost 4 men before I figured out their pattern. 5-second pulse sweeps every 30 m blind spots. Between, I used one of those blind spots to slide into position behind a downed bus. Eva was already there setting up her shot. Got one clean, she whispered. Big one, command unit. I looked through my scope. She wasn't wrong. It had 3 antennae coming out of its back and moved with deliberate control. Others followed it like ants. Take it, I said. One shot straight through the central node. It jerked, then stiffened. All the other units paused, confused. And that's when our teams moved in. Grenades, firebombs, EMP lances. We hit them with everything. They stuttered, malfunctioned. One of them started twitching and tore its own arm off. Still, we paid for every inch in blood. Marcus took a hit to the gut from a drone. Own mine. He kept fighting, held his intestines in with duct tape, and swore he'd live just to spite the bastards. I believed him. 3 hours in, the sky went black again. I thought it was more ships. I was wrong. It was a Shadow-class orbital crawler. We didn't even know the Empire still had those. They were banned in half the galaxy. Cities weren't fought against those things. They were erased. It hovered over our sector, blocking out the sun, and then it started drilling down. The ground shook, tunnels collapsed, 2 bunkers caved in before we even knew what was happening. People screaming on comms, static everywhere. They weren't fighting anymore. They were burying us alive. In the middle of that chaos, I ran, not out of fear, but because there was one last thing we hadn't tried. Something deep underground. Something the old world left behind. The HFY protocol. No one knew if it still worked. It was designed for last stands when humanity had nothing left but vengeance. I found the control chamber beneath the ruins of an old bank, sealed behind blast doors nobody had opened in 20 years. My handprint barely registered. I had to slice my palm and bleed on the scanner. It opened dark room. Cold, full of dust and dormant fury. Single console. Flickering screen. Hades protocol engaged. Yes, no. I didn't hesitate. Yes, above me the ground began to quake in a different rhythm. Hades wasn't a weapon, it was a network of buried fusion cores tied to old military nodes from the last global war. It didn't just blow things up, it created localized blackouts, radiation fields, and kinetic wave surges that shattered synthetic circuits, basically. It turned the battlefield into hell. I came back up as the first wave of explosions rippled through the crawler's underbelly, saw the sky light up with blue flame, watched the whispers freeze mid-move and drop, twitching like broken puppets, and when the crawler started collapsing, I smiled. Welcome to Earth, I said as fire rained down around me. We won that day, barely. We lost over 300 fighters, half our bunkers were gone. Radiation poisoning took another dozen within hours, but the crawler was gone, the whispers too. The Empire didn't speak to us after that. Didn't negotiate, didn't send another message. They just paused like they finally realized what they were up against. Back at the outpost, Marcus lay on a table with his guts half patched and a cigarette in his mouth. You think they'll come again? He asked. I stared out the broken window. Sky still red, earth still scarred. They will, I said. They always do. He grinned. Good. I was starting to enjoy myself. We buried Marcus 2 days later, he joked. Till the end, like always, said the duct. Tape would hold. Said he'd be drinking whiskey with us in a week. But we all knew he bled too much too fast, and there were no medbays left. Only morphine and silence. He died with a smile, cigarette still between his teeth, looking at the crater where the crawler had fallen, like he was proud to go out staring down the Empire's failure. I didn't cry, none of us did, not because we didn't want to, but because crying felt like a luxury no one could afford anymore. You shed tears in war. They fog your sight, make your hand tremble when it should pull a trigger. We burned his body like we did all our dead. Wood was scarce, so we used a fuel cell rigged to an old mining rig. He went up fast, flames licking high into the blackened sky, and we all watched in silence. I clenched my fists. Something cracked in my knuckles, but I didn't care. That made 6 friends in 1 week, 6 pieces of me gone, and the Empire was still out. They're watching, planning, waiting. Bunker cities to the east had gone dark. No communications, no signals. We feared the worst. Recon drones came back burned out or didn't come back at all. I sat with Eva that night in the shattered remains of an old library. Books were long gone, burned for heat or shredded into bedding. She was patching around into her sniper stock with a solder iron, eyes sharp but tired. They're softening us, she said. I nodded. They're bleeding us slow. No more full force, just the occasional drop team, testing defenses, measuring response. Probing, she muttered. They're not done. No, I said, not even close. We both knew what was next. We had to stop waiting, stop surviving, stop hiding in the ruins like rats, hoping the predator gets bored. It was time to take the fight to them. We called it Operation Hellwake. The idea came from a bitter old engineer named Roth, a cranky bastard who used to build deep space mining ships before the Empire torched his family colony. He had access codes from the old Mars Expeditions, codes tied to jump gates. The Empire never shut down because they assumed Earth would never get that far. Again, they were wrong. We didn't have ships. We built them, scrap from downed cruisers, old Earth shuttles with armor bolted on like patchwork, engines that wheezed and rattled but flew if you kicked them hard enough. Our flagship was a refitted garbage hauler we named Vengeance Protocol, ugly as sin but strong and angry. We packed it with 50 of our best snipers, saboteurs, ops demolitions experts, and one psychotic kid named Deke who liked explosives a little too much. I let them, not because I wanted to, but because the rest refused anyone else. Eva was my second, always watching my back, always knowing when I needed to keep moving and when I needed to shut the hell up. We prepped for launch from an old mining canyon in Colorado. Took 3 weeks to charge the drive cores. In that time, 2 more Empire skirmish groups hit the west outposts. We didn't even respond, not because we couldn't, but because we weren't there anymore. We had bigger targets. The gate opened like a tear in space. Jump drives hummed. Pressure built until ears bled and teeth rattled, and then like being yanked through a meat grinder of stars. We were in Sector 9, Zulu Empire. Forward base, cold, silent, beautiful. A terrifying kind of way, 3 moons. Gas giant in the distance, and floating just beyond the orbit ring, a station the size of Manhattan, Iskar Command. That was where the orders came from, where the decisions were made, where they'd sent the signal that marked Earth for extermination. I wanted to burn it. Out of the sky, we had one shot. Our ship came in cold, no engine signature. Gliding on inertia, Roth had programmed a dead code ID that mimicked one of their lost scouts. They didn't even blink when we got within a 100 km. Then Deke launched the pods, 10 of us each, in a magpod aimed straight at the station's underbelly. We hit like bullets, no alarms, no screams, just silence as we cut our way inside. Once in, we split up. Objective: detonate the core, kill command, sabotage transmission relays, and send a message. Earth does not bow. I went straight for the central deck. 2 guards stopped me. Tall, armored, not peacebringers. Station security, arrogant, bored. They didn't even raise their weapons in time. Shot one through the faceplate. Other tried to run. I caught him, knifed him through the neck joint. He twitched and slumped. Eva's voice came through the comms. Deck 7 clear. Deeks planting the primary bomb. Roger, heading to ops console. I reached it 2 minutes later. A sleek panel of lights and symbols. Old galactic script running diagnostics. I slammed a charge pack into the port and hacked it. Then the alarm started. Someone tripped a sensor, Eva said. Deke came on laughing. Might have been me. They didn't like me rewiring their coolant line into a pressure bomb. The walls shook. Shit, I muttered. They've got a warframe inbound. We need out. No, Eva said coldly. We finish this. The warframe burst through the wall like a demon, 10 ft tall, armored like a tank, eyes glowing red. Empire's last line of defense. I fired. Rounds pinged off its chest. Eva came from the side, blasted its knee with a concussive grenade. It stumbled. I lunged, planted a charge on its back. Rolled clear. Boom. It didn't scream. It just fell, mechanical body twitching. Smoking, dead. We moved fast after that, regrouped with Deke, helped him wire the last fail safe. 30 seconds till fireworks, he said. Grinning with blood on his cheek, we ran. Pods fired, explosions followed. From the edge of orbit, we watched Iskar Command go nova, fire blooming like a second sun, consuming everything. Debris scattered into the void, Earth's revenge delivered. We made it back, limping, broken, but alive. Crowds were waiting at the canyon site. When we touched down, people who hadn't smiled in years smiled, kids who never knew victory screamed in joy. Roth cried, first time I'd ever seen that grumpy bastard shed a tear. But me, I just looked at the sky because I knew what came next. This wasn't the end, it was just the spark. The Empire had felt our sting now. And they would come, not with elites, not with machines, but with everything, and that was fine. Because we weren't hiding anymore. Earth had one message now, come and burn. With us they came at dawn, not our dawn but their time, because space doesn't care about Earth's clock. What we did at Iskar Command shook something loose. We knew it would, but we weren't ready for the scale of what followed. 4 days after we returned, sensors in the Pacific relay towers lit up like a Christmas tree dipped in hell. Orbital flashes, 10, 20, then 50 Empire ships phased in above Earth's exosphere. No Peacebringers this time, no whispers, no containment strategy. This was a purge. Total, absolute, the kind of operation that left civilizations as ruins and rumors. The Empire had declared us unworthy of mercy, and we gave them the middle finger too loud and too well. Now they were going to answer. The War Council met underground in the last intact city we still had, Fort Sable, buried beneath what was once Denver. Our recon boys called it the coffin. Concrete, steel, rebar, heat lines, and power cores buried beneath a 100 ft of dirt and old world wreckage. Fitting name, because if this went bad, that's exactly what it would become. I stood at the center of the room, dirt still on my boots, blood drying on the sleeve of my jacket. Eva stood at my right shoulder, arms folded, eyes fixed on the rotating hologram of the Empire fleet. They brought seed ships. One of the techs said, planet crackers, big bastards. They start carving, we won't last a day. Let them try, I muttered. Roth looked at me like I'd grown a second head. You wanna go toe-to-toe with sea cruisers? With what? Hope and spit? No. I said, with what we've been saving. His eyes narrowed. You mean? I nodded. The Artemis rings, all of them. Silence dropped like a nuke. Someone exhaled. You're insane. Maybe, but if we die, we do it with the last laugh echoing through the galaxy. The Aramis rings were never supposed to exist, built in the final days of the Second Colony War. They were defense satellites designed to collapse gravity wells inside planetary orbit, like detonating a star's worth of mass in a slingshot wave. We never used them. War ended, the treaties held for a while, but someone had kept them functional, maybe out of fear, maybe out of spite, maybe because humans just can't help but prepare for the worst. We had 5 rings, enough to make an invasion cost 10 times what it should, enough to make them bleed. Activation required line of sight and old Earth-coded authorizations. That meant someone had to go topside into the storm, past the patrols, past the Empire's landers now crawling over scorched continents, and that someone was me. We launched at midnight, low sky, no lights, soundless engines. Eva flew the skimmer like a ghost with wings. I manned the weapons, eyes on the thermal radar. One shot from the wrong Drone patrol, and we'd vanish into pink mist, the ruins of Kansas passed beneath us like bones in the dark. We reached the North Relay Beacon just before sunrise, half buried under sand. Its antenna cracked, cables like veins poking out from under dead concrete. Eva set us down hard. You've got 10 minutes. After that, this whole area lights up like Vegas on Judgment Day. Understood. I pulled the duffel out of the cargo bay, tools, cables, encrypted drives, and a portable fusion spike, and ran fast, head down, heart pounding like it knew what was coming. Inside, the air was thick with rot. No one had been here in decades. Moss coated the floor. Something dead had decomposed in the corner, but I didn't care. I plugged in the spike, bypassed the main frame, and started the countdown. Artemis core link initiated. Authorized. Launch. I slammed my bloody thumb into the scanner. Do it. Warning. Collateral zone global. Casualties probable. Continue. I paused, thought about Marcus, about Roth, about the kids in Fort Sable who didn't know what peace ever felt like. Continue. The signal shot skyward, first nothing. Then boom, a silent pulse in the upper atmosphere, invisible to the eye but felt in every bone. The sky shivered. The Aramis rings came online, lit like halos in orbit, and the death song began. The first siege ship never saw it coming. 1 second it floated over the Atlantic, prepping a city-scale plasma burst. Next second, crack, the ring fired, graviton wave hit it from behind, bent it in half, snapped a billion credit destroyer like a twig. Crew gone, metal ripped into spirals, drifting into space like confetti. The second ship managed to fire, but the beam missed by miles, redirected by the gravitational ripples from Artemis 4. By the time they adjusted, we'd already taken out 3, but now they knew. They started hunting the rings back in Fort Sable. Alarms went off. Ava slammed her fist into the comms board. There. Descending, 2 dropships 50 clicks out. Straight for the ring's surface relays. Then we hold, I said. She gave me a look. You mean die? No, I said, I mean make them wish we died slower. We rallied everyone. No more hiding. Every able-bodied fighter, every mechanical, every rifle, miners with power drills, medics with sidearms, coders with EMP grenades. We lined the ridges and dug in deeper. No one spoke, no speeches, just the click of loaded magazines and the steady thump of boots taking position. I stood in the center of it all, rifle over my shoulder, rage in my chest, and then the sky opened. They dropped in pods again, sleek, fast, brutal, but this time we were waiting. We'd mined the field. Every landing zone was laced with shock traps and pressure plates. When the first pod hit, it exploded. Before it even opened, the second burst. Midair, taken out by a thermal-seeking rocket fired by a 12-year-old named Bennett. Kid grinned the whole time, then turned back to reload. The rest landed hard. Then all hell broke loose. We fought tooth and nail in the dirt, in the smoke, over bodies, through blood, and with a kind of hate that tasted like metal on the tongue. I killed one of them up close, a commander with a chainblade arm and a helmet shaped like a vulture's beak. We wrestled in the mud. He cut through my armor. I drove spike into his eye socket. He gurgled. I spat in his face. Ava took a round to the thigh. She kept shooting. Roth detonated a command rig and took down 4 drones with it. Deke blew himself up trying to take out a lander. He succeeded. Hours passed. We were down to the last. Wave ammo low, blood high. That's when the overseer arrived, 12 FT tall. Wrapped in black and chrome, no face. Just a glowing mouth where a face should be. It didn't walk, it glided, made the air bend around it. We all froze when it came. It didn't speak, just pointed a finger, and my heart stopped, literally. I fell to one knee, couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Everyone around me dropped, choking on air like poison. The overseer was bending gravity with a thought. Collapsing lungs, stopping pulses. I was dying, but something in me didn't stop, not yet. I crawled inch toward the fallen rail gun by Deke's charred corpse, got my hand on the grip, pulled. Shot right into its chest. Nothing. Shot again, still nothing. Then I saw the crack small near the joint. Third shot. Direct hit. The overseer froze, then split in half, dead. Gravity snapped back. We gasped, sucked air like drowning men. Some puked, others passed out. Me, I got up because Earth wasn't finished, and neither was I when the smoke cleared. Only a handful of us were still standing. Eva bleeding but alive. Wrath missing an arm. Bennett crying but grinning like a maniac. We looked to the sky. More Empire ships were coming, but so were our rings. Artemis 1 fired again, this time at the fleet's core ship. It shattered like glass. They started retreating, running, fleeing Earth like it was cursed. And maybe it was, but it was ours, and we made sure they knew, if you come for humanity, you better pack your own graves. The sky had stopped burning, for now smoke still choked the air. Craters marked the landscape like a god had punched the ground over and over. The scent of melted alloy, blood, and scorched soil mixed into something unforgettable. Something we all started calling victory's breath. Because that's what it was, survival's ugly aftertaste. The Empire had pulled back. They hadn't sent a retreat signal. No peace offering, no surrender broadcast. They just left cold and silent. And somehow that was worse. We found Ava lying against the side of a wrecked pod, leg wrapped in bandages. Her face pale, eyes hollow. She wasn't crying, she never did, but something about her looked missing, like a piece of her hadn't made it out of the last firefight. She nodded when she saw me. You made it. Barely, I said, crouching beside her. You, she tilted her head to the side. I think part of my soul's still back there. With Deke's blown out boots, I didn't smile. I couldn't. Deke wasn't the only one. We'd lost nearly 70% of our fighters. The Artemis rings were still functional, but 2 were damaged, 1 beyond repair. Roth was in surgery, if you could call stapling nerves and burning flesh closed surgery. We won the ground. But Earth wasn't standing, it was crawling, bleeding, clenching its fists, and swearing revenge. The Empire wouldn't stop, not forever. They didn't let problems fester, they erased them. And now Earth wasn't a backwater resistance planet anymore. It was a scar on their record, a threat to their illusion of superiority. So we had a choice: wait for them to return and finish what they started, or hit them first and burn their pride to ash. The War Council met 3 days later in what used to be a football stadium, now roofless and cracked open like a crushed can. Ava was there, propped up on a crate with her rifle resting beside her. Roth joined via projection, his remaining arm in a sling, face bandaged, voice tired but sharp. Me. I stood in the middle, looking at the maps and fleet trajectories carved into a steel board by a nervous tech. With a shaking hand, Where's their soft spot? I asked. Room fell silent. No one had ever asked. That before, everyone had always been too focused on defending, enduring, surviving, but survival wasn't enough. Anymore, I wanted their bones. Roth coughed. You're not going to like the answer. Try me. They've got a logistics planet, Karen. Nothing fancy. Mid-range gravity, automated processing. Hubs, fuel depots, light military presence. But here's the kicker. He clicked something on his console. The projection zoomed in. It's where they train their diplomats, the ones who go out to seduce planets, form alliances, smooth things over, real soft hands, real clean uniforms. I grinned. You're right, I like it a lot. Operation Black Echo was born in the wreckage of the last battlefield. This time, we weren't sending a message. We were making an example. The Empire wanted to know what kind of threat Earth had become. We'd let them see it up close. Our fleet was a mess. 10 ships total, 2 functional, the rest were welded patchworks, barely airworthy, powered by stolen cores and fueled by scavenged coolant. Our crew, 127 fighters, half of them patched up with bandages, half of them high on painkillers. Most had never left the atmosphere before, but what we lacked in gear we made up for in fury. I handpicked every soldier. No one got it unless they'd bled, lost, and come back swinging. Eva came despite her injuries, said if she had to die, she'd rather do it moving forward. Roth uploaded every schematics file he had into our systems, even as he recovered in a biotank, barely conscious, and Bennett the kid stowed away inside a weapons locker. We found him 5 hours into flight. I was going to kick him off at the next fuel station. Then I remembered the shot. He landed on the last drone in the siege. I let him stay. The Triptychon took 6 days through a hacked jump path. When we dropped out of hyperspace, the system looked quiet. No warships, no alarms, just wide skies. 3 hovering cities, a central orbital ring with antenna-like spires, and thousands of clean white towers shaped like petals. It was beautiful. Sickeningly beautiful, like looking at the teeth of something pretending not to be a predator. We didn't land quiet. We slammed into their central communications tower with an impact rig to create a decoy shockwave while their security scrambled to assess the crash. Our real teams dropped in through cargo tunnels beneath the atmosphere filters. We were inside in under 3 minutes. By 5, we owned the relay hubs. By 10, we had shut down internal defense AIS. By 15, we sent out a message, not to them, to the whole damn galaxy. The broadcast was simple. I stood in front of the Empire's own diplomat seal, my face covered in ash uniforms, scorched, my voice calm, to those who sit in crystal palaces while sending machines to butcher our world. This is your reckoning. You sent your best. We buried them. You dropped fire from the sky. We returned it with bones. This world we've taken, it's not a prize. It's a warning. Earth is no longer prey. You can come again, but you won't leave. I ended the message, and then we detonated the fusion drives in there. Diplomat quarter, clean buildings. Melted white towers turned to slag, and somewhere across hundreds of light years, 1,000 alien officials pissed themselves. We left the planet in smoke. Didn't take it, didn't occupy, just burned it and went home, back on Earth. We weren't greeted like heroes. There were no parades, no flowers, just nods. Tight handshakes, men and women who finally looked like they could sleep. Again, kids who weren't afraid to smile. Bunkers being cleaned, gardens being planted, rebuilding started slowly. Piece by piece, brick by brick, but the fear was gone because we knew something. Now the empire bled and we made them bleed. I stood with Eva on a cliff, overlooking the remains of what used to be Kansas plains. She was walking with a cane now still sharpied still. Dangerous. Do you think they'll hit back? She asked. Eventually, I said, but we'll be ready. She looked at me, eyebrows raised. That optimism I hear. I shook my head. Not optimism, just preparation. Then I looked back at the crater, sun bleeding red into the horizon. Next time they come, they won't find the same Earth, no number. They'll find something worse. 3 weeks after we burned Khan, the galaxy stopped laughing. There were whispers on the outer trade routes, merchant guilds refusing to dock near Earth sectors, pirate bands backing off. Without a word, a galactic ceasefire on diplomatic channels, not because of treaties, because of fear. We'd crossed a line, and no one, not even the Empire, knew what to make of us anymore. We weren't the scrappy underdogs anymore. We were the fire that wouldn't stop burning. I was standing in the old Denver ruins when the first message came through. Direct link, secure frequency, encrypted in a language I hadn't heard since I was 12. Zarathan, not Earth, not Empire, a neutral system. Former clients of the Empire, known for neutrality, tech expertise, and one hell of a cowardly foreign policy. I nearly deleted it, but something made me pause. The message was short. We've seen what you did on Khan. We're no friends of the Empire, but we have something you'll want. Me to coordinates attached. Come alone, no warships. Eva read it with me. You going? I don't trust it, I said, but we don't have the luxury of ignoring open hands. She frowned. Just don't mistake a hand for a blade. The coordinates led to a decommissioned moon base, half submerged in a gas cloud system orbiting a dead world. I took the Vengeance protocol alone, no escort, just cloaked comms and the old pulse pistol Marcus gave me before he bled out on a supply run. Still had the scratch marks on the grip where he'd etched fight back in crooked letters. The base was quiet, no lights, no guards. I stepped inside with my pulse rifle raised, senses sharp. A single man was waiting, thin, pale, 3 eyes, long robe like a scientist, not military. You're the Earth commander, he said. No greeting, just that. I nodded. You're not Empire number, but I worked with them before. Khan. That made me want to shoot him on the spot. Instead, I let him talk. He called himself Dinvaran, former data strategist for the Empire's border division, fired after he questioned the extermination orders for Earth. They don't fear you because you're violent, he said. They fear you because you changed how you broke the chain, the way things were. Empires conquer, colonies kneel, resistance gets crushed quietly. He leaned in. But you didn't just fight, you humiliated them. And now they're reeling. Their order is cracking, and others are watching. That caught my attention. Others? Dan nodded. There are systems out there, whole networks of silenced planets, species kept in dead under tech locks, bound by Empire licensing laws. They don't rise up because they think they're alone. He handed me a data drive. Show them they're not. When I returned to Earth, I called a meeting, not a war. Council this time, something bigger. We brought in the outpost leaders, bunker chiefs, rogue captains from our off-world cells, 100 of us. Scarred, angry, and finally, for the first time, unified. I put the drive in the console and let it play. 50 planets, hundreds of colonies, civilizations buried under taxes, surveillance, fear, and one common thread, hatred of the Empire. We make contact, I said, not to ask for help, to offer war. The room went silent, then Roth, still half metal, eyes sharper than ever, spoke first. You sure we're not becoming the thing we're fighting? Maybe we are, I said. But the difference, we remember where we came from. We didn't start this, but we'll end it. Eva nodded. And if they want freedom, they'll need someone mad enough to lead the charge. We called it the Ashlight Alliance. Unofficial, underground, built through smuggled messages, encrypted pings, and blood vouch signatures. We offered them weapons, training, blueprints for Earth aid disruptors, and in return they gave us access, stations, hideouts, refueling posts. It wasn't fast, it wasn't easy, but by the end of that month, Earth wasn't a lonely outpost anymore. It was a rallying cry. Then came the betrayal. It started on Cryos 7, a mining colony we'd secured through a rebel faction called the Iron Vow. Decent fighters, bit too hungry for power, but reliable until they sold us out. A data runner sent by Roth caught the leak, coordinates of our weapon drop, sent directly to an Empire listening post. By the time we reacted, the Empire had already glassed the site. 93 dead. Among them Bennett, the kid, the one who shot down a drone with a stolen rocket. They found him curled around a pair of civilians, burned, still holding his rifle. I didn't speak for hours. After they told me, Eva just stood outside, head down, fist clenched so tight her fingernails broke skin. We found the Iron Vow's leader, didn't interrogate him, didn't lecture, just dragged him into the open and gave him a choice: shoot himself or burn. He chose the second. I watched the flames until he stopped screaming. Then I told everyone present, betrayal won't be punished, it'll be erased. No one questioned it because they knew we weren't in a war for justice anymore. This was survival through fire. A month later, Earth launched its first full strike fleet, 10 ships, 5 drop units, 3 nuclear payloads made from asteroid mined deuterium. Target, Turvana Prime, a luxury planet, home of Empire senators, retired admirals, the ones who drank spiced wine while signing extermination orders with their jewel-tipped fingers. We didn't just bomb the military sectors. We hit the pleasure domes, the opera halls, the palaces. We didn't just send a message. We sent a scream, and when the galactic news streams showed the burning cities, we didn't deny it, we owned it. I sat alone that night on the edge of Fort Sable's upper deck, watching the sky. Ava joined me, still limping but stronger now. Her hair was shorter, her scars deeper. They're going to call us monsters, she said. They already do. And if they're right. I didn't answer right away because part of me wondered if we had become something monstrous, if the line between vengeance and cruelty had blurred beyond recovery. But then I remembered Marcus Bennett, my brothers and sisters buried in glass soil. They made monsters, I finally said. We just stopped pretending to be prey. And somewhere in the deep, cold dark of space, the Empire began building something big, something final, because they'd finally realized humanity doesn't stop We escalate, we thought we'd seen their worst. Glassings, the whisper units, the orbital crawlers, but those were old. Weapons, relics of a time when they assumed submission was a guarantee. Now they knew better, now they were afraid. And fear breeds monsters. The signal came from a broken relay near Europa, garbled, faint, buried in static. We almost ignored it, but Roth's paranoia saved us again. He had one of his tech rats decrypted while we were briefing a new strike team. What came through wasn't a distress call, wasn't coordinates, it was a recording, grainy, low rays but unmistakable. A city, empire architecture, domed towers, white marble walkways, and in the center of it a void, not a weapon, not a bomb, a hole in space, a perfect circle of darkness, 10 km wide, hovering just meters above the surface, swallowing everything beneath it. Buildings, roads, screaming citizens. One by one, they vanished into the black. Then came the voice, "This is Project Silence, the next evolution of compliance. There will be no rebellion. There will be no resistance, only silence." The transmission cut. No demands, no threats, just a demonstration. Roth looked like he'd seen hell again. He limped over to the console and slammed his metal fist into the display. Cracking the screen, Eva leaned forward, squinting at the frozen image of the void. "That's not Empire tech, no." Roth growled. "It's worse, it's hybrid. Forbidden tech, the kind they swore off after the collapse wars. Why use it now?" I asked. "Because they're losing," Roth said, "and the Empire doesn't lose. Not on paper, not in legacy. They'd rather erase entire histories than admit defeat." I looked down at the still burning image of the collapsed city. "Where is that?" He pointed at the data. Stamp, Hesker, Second Empire loyalist. Colony, their own people. Eva went pale. "They're turning it on themselves." Roth looked at me. "We either stop it now, or there won't be anything left to save. We launched the recon in secret. No fanfare, no announcement, just 5 stealth cruisers, 5 pilots in a data siphon built from Empire signal architecture. My ship was called Ashbone. Fitting. We jumped to Hesker's outer orbit, cloaked under debris fields and radiation curtains. From above, the planet looked untouched until you zoomed in. Whole regions were missing, not bombed, not burned, gone. Like someone took a razor to the surface and carved pieces out of the crust. Chunks of cities suspended in orbit like shattered glass, people still inside. Some of the frozen sections, faces locked mid-scream. Roth's voice came over the comms. "I've never seen tech like this. It doesn't vaporize, it dislocates, rips mass out of time-space and stores it somewhere." "Where?" Eva asked. "Nowhere we can reach. Then we make sure they never use it again." I said. "We found their weapon platform orbiting the far side, camouflaged inside an artificial moon. The surface was sleek, featureless, but sensors showed massive heat signatures. Inside, movement, energy, and a signal. Constant, repeating, silent, like a heartbeat or a countdown." We docked manually. No AI, no automated systems. No risk. Inside it was cold, metal. Corridors, no markings, no crew. Until we reached the core and saw it. Project Silence, not a weapon, a machine. Spinning slowly in the center of a gravity chamber, 10 rings orbiting a central sphere of compressed dark energy, something harvested from a collapsed dimension, if Roth's best guess was right. Surrounding it, human bodies, dozens hooked into the machine. Still breathing, still conscious there. Brains used as living processors. Organic computers to handle calculations. Faster than synthetic AI. I staggered back. Eva vomited, Roth just stared, whispering, they're using minds to predict disruption patterns to erase. Only resistance nodes, not entire populations, just descent. They're deleting rebels before they exist, I said, and then I saw one of the faces, old, tired. Marcus, I don't remember drawing my gun. Just that I was screaming when I fired. Shot after shot into the dark core, into the energy nexus, into the very heart of the thing. It didn't crack, but the machine shuddered, the faces writhed, and the signal skipped a beat. Alarms screamed, power surged, we ran. Explosions behind us, gravity fluctuating, floors twisting underfoot. Air thickening like syrup. Roth was limping hard. Eva threw him over her shoulder. I fired behind us until the clip was dry. We got out just barely. As we launched from the docking bay, we saw the moon fracture, not from our sabotage but from within, the minds. Inside the machine, they weren't just powering it, they were fighting back. We jumped to Earth hard, fast, rough, came out of hyperspace, bleeding systems, hull scorched, Roth half dead again, but we were alive and we had proof. The Empire wasn't just trying to win, they were rewriting the battlefield itself. I went straight to Fort Sable's war room and dropped the evidence. No speeches, just raw data. When it finished playing, the room was silent. Then Eva stood. They've crossed every line. If we wait for another attack, we die. Roth nodded. We have coordinates. Central hub where Project Silence was constructed. The minds are still linked. Still suffering. I turned to the room. Then we don't wait. The plan was simple. Get in, destroy the link, rescue who we could, wipe the rest. We called it Judgment Protocol. The target, a classified Empire world. Vale Station, hidden inside a binary black hole system, technically unreachable. The kind of place even their own officials pretended didn't exist, but we had the coordinates, we had the will. And for the first time in history, Earth led a fleet not to survive, but to end a war. 40 ships launched, Earth-made. Rebel augmented, ugly as hell, glorious. We warped into the Vale system under fire, enemy defenses open like teeth. Hundreds of drones, laser webs, plasma coils we plowed through, losses mounted, 15 ships gone in the first wave. No retreat, we breached orbit. Drop units fell fast, red-hot, screaming death from above. I landed on the command deck of the station. The machine was there, still alive, still humming, still using them. This time I didn't hesitate. I stormed the core with Ava and 3 squads, shot my way through guards, fired until my gun clicked dry, switched to blade. Blood on my hands, screams in my ears. And at the center, a console. 1 command line. Disconnect all. I hovered my hand. Hesitated because if I hit yes, every mind still wired into Project Silence would die quickly, painlessly, but still die. They were prisoners, victims, some human, some not, all alive, all suffering. Eva looked at me. Do it. I looked at Roth, bleeding out nearby. Say it. He didn't hesitate. End it. I pressed the button. Confirmed. Disconnecting neural array. Lights dimmed. The machine trembled. The hum stopped, and the screaming stopped with it. The war changed that day. The Empire didn't just lose a weapon, they lost their myth, because Earth didn't just Resist, we fought back, we found their secrets and we burned them in the open. They stopped sending fleets, stopped broadcasting threats, now they send silence, a silence of their own making. And for the first time, maybe ever, we are the storm they fear. The war didn't end with parades, no banners, no cheering crowds, no hollow speeches from broken leaders pretending they planned it this way. It ended with quiet, not peace, not relief, just quiet, the kind that makes your hands twitch because you're so used to gunfire, you feel its ghost in the silence. We came back from Vale Station changed, not just those of us who fought, but Earth itself. The broadcasts didn't lie. We had done the impossible, toppled an empire without a capital, killed a weapon that defied time and space, broken a system that fed on fear and obedience for centuries. And now the galaxy was watching us with wide, terrified eyes, some with hope, others with dread, and they all asked the same question. What will the humans do next? Roth died 2 days after we returned. His body gave out before his mind did. He spent his last hours hooked up to a data terminal, typing instructions, blueprints, fail-safe codes, building for a future he wouldn't see. He refused a burial, said Earth's soil had taken enough of him. We loaded his remains into a warhead casing and launched it toward the Empire's shattered border satellites. It was poetic in a way, the man who helped break the Empire becoming the final piece of shrapnel in its skin, Eva. And I stood over the blast crater where the old command tower used to be. No more war room, no more maps, no more planning, just wind and dust. You think they'll come back? She asked. I didn't answer right away because I didn't know, and that scared me more than anything else. They might, I said, but they'll find a world ready. She looked at me. And if they don't come back? That was the question no one dared say aloud. What if the Empire was truly broken? What if we had actually won, not just survived, but won? What the hell do people like us do in a world that no longer needs us? 3 weeks later we received a message, not from the Empire, from the Ashade Alliance. It had grown. Since Vale Station, word had spread like wildfire. More than 60 colonies had risen up, throwing off surveillance nets, assassinating local governors, bombing factories, feeding the Empire's last outposts. They didn't ask for permission. They used our flag, not the old Earth banner. That one was buried in the ruins of a broken past. This was different. Black background, red circle, a single white slash through the center. The scar, they called it that because it represented Earth, the world that had been wounded, beat, nearly erased, and yet survived. We never meant to lead a movement, but that's what it had become. And now they wanted more than symbols. They wanted structure, a fleet, a government, an Earth-led coalition. They wanted to make Earth not just the start of a rebellion, but the center of a new power. We gathered what was left of the Council, Eva, some of the original bunker chiefs, 2 new faces from rebel colonies, young, witty, and furious. They saw us as legends. It made me sick. They wanted to name me first commander of the Ashate Dominion. Not a joke, they were serious. I looked at the words written in fire on the bunker wall. Words someone had spray painted after Vale. Earth does not bow. That had been our truth, but now they wanted others to bow to us. I spent 3 nights staring at that message. No sleep, just memories. Marcus gutshot and grinning. Bennett with his cracked Smile and burnt boots, Roth whispering. Through blood to make a count, and Eva, who had followed me through hell. Through fire, through voids so cold they stripped the soul. We never asked for this, we fought to be left alone. But that's not how history works. Moment you break the machine, the pieces start asking for a new shape, and they expect you to mold it. Eva found me on the last night before the vote. She didn't say anything at first, just sat next to me holding 2 cups of synth coffee that tasted like boiled rubber and ash. I took one anyway. Do you want to lead them? She asked. Quietly I shook my head. No, but you're going to. Maybe. She was silent for a long time. Then if you do, just promise me something, anything. Don't become what we burned. I looked at her into those cold, tired eyes. She wasn't asking me to lead, she was asking me not to lose myself. The next morning I stood in front of the gathered representatives from over 70 free colonies. No grand speeches, no promises of eternal peace or glory, just one truth: we didn't bleed to build another empire, we bled so no one else would have to. Earth is not your throne, it is your warning. We will not rule, we will guard, and if any of you try to become the monsters we just destroyed, we'll burn you too. That was it. No applause, no cheers. Just a collective silence that said they understood, and fear not of me but of what we were willing to do. We never formed a dominion, we built a loose defense network. No capital, no throne. World, no anthem, just coordinates and a pact. Never again. Earth remained the center, but not of power, of memory, of warning. We kept the scar flag, but we didn't fly it above cities. We etched it into armor, onto walls, into code, so it lived in silence, a reminder of the cost. Years passed. Eva retired to the tundras in the north, said the cold kept her bones honest. I visited her twice. We never talked about the war. Just drank. Saturday remembered the way old soldiers do when no one's asking them to be legends anymore. Me, I stayed near Fort Sable, what was left of it, built a small home in the hills overlooking the crater where we'd burned the last of the empire's influence. Some nights I walked out there, stood in the silence and listened. Not for threats, not for voices, but for the ghosts. One night, a ship landed near my cabin. Sleek, new, carrying a child barely 12. Eyes full of questions. They said they came from one of the freed colonies, that their parents had died in a rebel skirmish, and that I was a name taught in school, a myth, a boogeyman, a savior. They asked me, did you really end the war? I looked out at the crater, at the stars, at the long shadow Earth had left across the galaxy, and I said, no. They blinked. But you destroyed the empire. I nodded. That's not the same as ending a war. Then what did you do? I smiled, bitter. I reminded the galaxy what happens when you try to kill humanity and leave it breathing. Final line: we weren't the heroes. We were the vengeance that heroes call when hope is gone. And now we're watching. Always watching, because the next time they send their best, we won't laugh. We'll finish it.